then there's different decades in your life. What is optimal is moving target. It's never ready. So I wrote the Biohacker's Handbook. I did run Biohacker Summit for 10 years plus. But with the increasing realization and understanding of like this whole theater, I understand that I need to create something new. And I do believe in movements. And to me, biohacking was a terrible term. It sounds dangerous. It sounds invasive. But now we are in a place where we see that technology is not necessarily delivering only good things. So if we look at the problems in our food chains, like all of the frozen food and food processing and all of that now we have a epidemic of metabolic issues. I think a modern lifestyle is a huge challenge. And what I like is the term lifestyle medicine. Mm-hmm. So this is what people need nowadays most. And no one else is going to be as interested in your optimal health and wellness than you are. Like no doctor. Not you have an influencer for every topic who is an extreme example of ideal, and it's also fabricated and partly made up. But you are subconsciously comparing yourself to all of these people simultaneously while you live your life.
Trust to Disrupt, the podcast where visionary entrepreneurs, artists, creators, Web3 and crypto minds share visionary conversations and disruptive success stories. We are at a turning point in history. We cannot move forward with what got us here, and something must change. That's what the AI futurist says, who is my guest today. The Finnish biohacker has a professional career of 2 decades as a technology entrepreneur, a professional award-winning speaker and author. He is one of the forefront figures of the biohacking movement. He co-authored the best-selling Biohacker's Handbook series and curated the Hololife Summit, which is the #1 biohacking conference in Europe, and it promotes better living through science, technology, and nature. The visionary mind is the co-founder of the Hololife Center, the ultimate destination for health span optimizers. Through this platform, my guest provides access to education, products, and community, all about creating a healthy, long, and conscious life. Through all his ventures, he has built a community across platforms and live events of more than 100,000. The entrepreneur has received the Leonardo Award 2015, was selected top 100 most influential people in IT 2016, and awarded Speaker of the Year and Leadership Trainer of the Year 2017 and 18. Later on, 2022, he was invited to join Evolutionary Leaders, an initiative by the Chopra Foundation and the Source Synergy Foundation that focuses on the future of conscious leadership. The events he organizes gather 3,000 and more people annually from more than 60 countries, all interested in optimal human performance, health, and wellness. And seeing my guest on stage is a highly recommended experience to enjoy his unmatched ability to bring the complex future vision that he holds into the here and now, and to break it down into simple action steps everyone can connect to as a next step in health, performance, and leadership. So please warmly welcome Teemu Arina.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. I've been dying to send questions your way and having the opportunity here for the audience to hear your amazing perspectives on it. So diving right into it, I'm coming back to the quote from the beginning that is across your social media at the moment as well, which is, we are at a turning point in history and we cannot move forward with what got us here, and there's need for change. So why? What? Please share a little bit about that. What is it that you see?
I think it's a question or a statement that is not just about health, wellness, but I think everyone can sense that for sure going on in the world, that the Industrial Revolution that provided us prosperity and doubled life expectancy from 45 to 85, and the technological revolution that reduced human work and is now, with the advent of artificial intelligence, also getting into more complex jobs, not just assembly line logic. And then all of this that was supposed to save us time and give us more space for creativity and creative projects whatever we want to pursue in life, and longer lifespan. Like if you think about it, if you were 45, probably already in your 20s or earlier already, you were thinking about family and like having someone to take care of you when you are old, which is like nowadays, like people start thinking about children when they get into their 40s sometimes. So that's like one thing that has happened in the last couple of 100 years. But now we are in a place where we see that technology is not necessarily delivering only good things. So if we look at the problems in our food chains, um, like all of the frozen food and food processing and all of that that was supposed to save home moms time preparing food and all of that, now we have a epidemic of metabolic issues that people have access to food and clean water. That was a huge thing, of course. Logistically, is now also contributing to the fact that you can get basically as much calories as you want. You don't need to work on the field for it. So I think a modern lifestyle is a huge challenge. And what I like about is the term lifestyle medicine.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what people need nowadays most. I mean, you can have pharmaceutical medicines when are acutely ill, but with degenerative diseases, often when you have symptoms like diabetes or heart disease, it's already too late. It's very hard to reverse. It's possible, but we should take action like 10, 20, 30 years down the road already before anything happens. And that's where biohacking, health optimization comes in, and taking a smarter approach to nutrition. So nowadays it's more about, I would say you need to become aware of your biology and what is the optimal for you. And no one else is going to be as interested in your optimal health and wellness than you are. Like no doctor. They only care about if you're sick and you need immediate treatment or not. Um,
If I may, this is one thing very profound that you just said, that nobody is as interested as you yourself. Do you see the majority of people is already at that point of understanding that and having gone through this perspective shift for themselves? Or is that something where the major leverage can come from? Or is it a mix of everything that is in the process of change?
well, it's basically, of course, it's a growing trend, and many news outlets recently have reported that health and wellness will be a huge trend, especially this preventive side in the next few years, next decade. And it used to be like a super small um, fringe, this whole alternative health movement, but now it's becoming a trendy thing. You have nightclubs that don't offer alcohol. You have people go on weekends not to bars and festivals, but they go to relax and recover in some kind of new facility for sauna or ice baths or whatnot. Like it's basically a trend. And then we have all the influencers and celebrities who are promoting this lifestyle. So that's one thing. The other thing is, in terms of technology, is that technology promised us to be more connected than ever. But one of the side effects of that, we are probably more depressed than ever.
Mm-hmm.
We have all these needs that we didn't know we need. We have all these people online who we compare ourselves to. There's always someone who is a better home mom or a better business person or more wealthy or more beautiful or has more beautiful outfits, or decorates their home better, whatnot. You have an influencer for every topic who is an extreme example of ideal, and it's
Mm-hmm.
also fabricated and partly made up. But you are subconsciously comparing yourself to all of these people simultaneously while you live your life, and then it's not a surprise that we have so many people who are depressed, anxious, burning out, trying to achieve that, or feel less and unable to achieve the things what the standards are. Who is setting the standards? They are, of course, themselves subconsciously. But I would say there is a crisis of the mind, and awareness of your identity and what you're supposed to be and what a good life looks like. I've seen so many influencers also in health and wellness who do the wellness into the extreme, and then they burn out of that, like supposedly optimal wellness. Like they do ice bath every day, they do hard workouts every day, they eat perfectly every day, and then they wonder why they are lacking energy, or they motivation or inspiration, and their schedules are full anyway. So I'm not surprised why something like blue zones as an idea is popular in these times, that you could like live a slow life somewhere, beautiful nature, surrounded by family, smiling, um, with animals and butterflies and flowers. But that is the kind of other extreme of the storytelling that.
Do you feel, talking about technology, AI, the influencers, and I mean the emergence of, at least in the public eye, AI and the technology is now kind of popping up, while if you really look back, it's not very, very new. But still, do you feel this could be really beneficial if influencers become, and they are already, more AI driven, and it can be influenced in a way to promote a different perspective, as one
Well,
example, and AI as overall as the role? Do you see that as a positive and supportive thing, or
well,
what is AI?
AI is like all of these technological revolutions, that it promises us um, all these things we didn't have before, and it is promising that it will do your work, it will replace your workers in your company, it is of lifting off your shoulders a lot of the tasks that you used to do, and it is doing it already at an accelerated speed. Of course, there's the worry that, like, what work is left for humans, and I do believe that we always will need AI experts, probably increasingly so. I mean, in the whole industrial revolution, we needed factory workers, we needed factories, then we needed um, marketers, then we needed, pretty much with computers, we needed programmers, we need to make websites, we need to do all of this engineering. Now we need AI experts, we need prompt engineers. There's enough jobs, but the thing is that the AI and the technology itself, as a liberating force, it has probably a dark side, like all of these other technologies as well. Does it make us more lazy, more depressed? With the influencers, you can now replicate an influencer. You can be an AI influencer, or you can be a hybrid. You can use AI that makes your videos, that looks like you and speaks like you. And if you're a travel blogger, you can put yourself in any environment now. You don't need to actually go physically anywhere. So what is happening is probably an influx of a lot of content like this. I'm a book author. Books are being written now, online courses are being written now by people who don't really know at all what they're doing, but from AI they get better results than they could ever produce themselves. And the users can't really distinguish necessarily who is the real expert anymore. So there's many issues that is coming with it. I mentioned blue zones. That is the dream that is being sold to us through Netflix and media. That's also a total scam, because
Why? Tell us why. What is
there
your?
was a recent study, a professor from some university called, basically, like, tried to reach out to every centenarian in the world, and it turned out that 70% of them are dead. So what does that mean? It means that the statistics are wrong. We don't live as long as we think. Probably it's not 85 on average, because there's so much pension scams. Like, it turned out that these places like Ikaria, Okinawa, that are being mentioned as the oldest living populations also have the highest rates of pension fraud.
Oh, wow.
So
I
the
wasn't aware of that.
families are basically keeping that person alive in the registry so that they can take the money. The person is dead a long time ago.
Mm.
So then, like, these researchers go there who make this content, Netflix series. They want to know how people live here, and it's some of the most rural, most poorest um, areas. If we take Okinawa, for example, we think like that's one of the highlights. Japan did a study on the healthiest um, municipalities in Japan. It turns out it's number 56.
Hmm.
It's not on the top list. So why would you emulate that place? It's just a illusion. The thing about blue zones also is that if you actually did look at um, the areas in the world that would have the oldest living populations, you would have places like Puerto Rico, also a lot of pension fraud. You would have places like the northern uh, part of Africa, uh, uh, Sahara. Um, there is no government even. Actually, in Puerto Rico, they discontinued pensions
Mhm.
because they can't trust anymore what people are reporting them. So the thing is that we might actually not live as long as we think. And now there is also the other extreme is like these people like Brian Johnson and others who are trying to live forever using technology. What is driving the need to live longer? If you are like getting into your 40s, close to your 50s, why do you want to look like your child? The underlying, and I don't know Brian, for example, personally enough, but I know enough health influencers. I've seen them. Most of them are driven by fear of
Fear of what?
dying, fear
Of
of
dying.
dying.
Hmm.
So they have like lived their teen years as if they are immortal. They eat whatever they want, they did whatever they want, they slept little, and they did their careers like full on. And then they burned out physically or psychologically, mentally. And then they had a health crisis. And the way out was something we call biohacking or health optimization. And then that becomes a coping mechanism of trying to avoid ending up where they ended up. So this new thing that helped them out of their problems is now becoming the lifestyle, the identity that they carry. But it's still fear of death that is driving them. That's why we call these movements not like optimal health and wellness. We call it something like don't die hashtag.
It,
So this is what I see when these things pop up. And the thing is that the more extreme you are, the more likely you're being followed because it's easier to put you in a box. You're like a monkey in a cage online on social media. It's nice to follow like this crazy person who is doing these things. And that creates cults, that creates movements. The more extreme your opinions are, like let's say you only can live with sunlight, or you can only use red light therapy, or only drink butter coffee, or just have carnivore diet, or just have vegan diet, or avoid sugar. You see what I mean? It's basically like the more extreme your opinions, which is far from what is realistic for most people, which is also far from probably what is healthy. Like being an extreme vegan is stupid. Also, being an extreme carnivore is absolutely idiotic. And the thing is that like people buy the selective studies that these guys are promoting, that like choosing one small area is going to have long-term health benefits, but often it's mainly short-term. Maybe you lose weight, maybe your skin clears out because you're eliminating the food items that were causing all the symptoms, or part of them. You're basically through these elimination diets, you will feel great. That's what's used medically. Like if you have gut issues or something, an elimination diet, reducing the potential uh, like food sensitivity causing items will help your system to heal. The more calorie restricted you are, based on studies, the longer you live. That's great. But then that, what is usually, ideally, only a short-term remedy becomes a long-term lifestyle. And what I've seen with these people, they might burn out in different ways. Women might lose their hormonal cycles. Someone who is doing extreme sports every day, or every day going to ice bath, their nervous system burns up. Or
So
basically,
our
like
we
too much spending in autophagy, too much spending in positive, or like stressors. Like there is always too much of a good thing, and it's the same with like anything. And then like understanding that optimal health is not doing everything 100% correct all the time,
so
especially if you're
did
talking
we
about mental
if I
well-being.
may interrupt, that we get to this kind of a distortion in perception for the people who are in the bigger crowd of receiving and consuming this information, that distortion got created by somebody being extreme in the one thing because of personal coping mechanisms that might be unconscious, in combination with more online marketing that drives, if you niche down more, you'll be more successful because you, as exactly you said, and then people look through the filter, well, has been created through personal coping plus marketing somehow.
Yes. And our world leaders, including those influencers or CEOs or politicians, they're all caricatures. They're all extreme examples of characters. If you think about it, are they like the most balanced, considerate, reflective, intelligent people? Probably very intelligent, because they are spending all of the energy on maintaining that image and that behavior. But the whole thing here is that when you're looking through a glass of these people, basically through your phone, you need to mentally put them in like some kind of frame. And the easier it is to understand what this person is about, the easier it is to follow them. The easier it is to react to what they're doing, because it's crazy. Everything they do is crazy. So that's what generates likes and comments and shares. So if you look at our world politicians, the same story here. They're all crazy, and they're all extreme, and you're just waiting. What is the next season? What is the next crazy thing they do? What is the next episode of stuff that you want to talk about? And if you want to become an influencer, you would emulate this behavior, and people want that. We have coaches, we have programs, online courses, like how to grow your channel. How do you do it? It's the first 3 seconds. You need to pattern interrupt someone so that they stop scrolling, and they take a look at that crazy thing, and you need to trigger their most primal emotions. If you're just like, you know um, not able to stick out from the crowd, no one's going to pay attention to you. And that is like the other side of the coin here. So when we started from the question of, okay, the world needs to change, something needs to change, is that I see that these things are the pinnacle of our civilization right now, and we have had many civilizations before this, like hundreds of civilizations, not just Egyptians and Romans and Aztec and Incas and whatnot, but most of these empires collapsed at some point to the structural issues, and that could cause like famines or problems in food supply. But often, like if you look at the Roman Empire before its collapse, they were basically having a lot of circus acts going on all the time. So you had all these distractions for people so that they wouldn't pay attention to the real issues going on in the society. And that's what technology is amplifying for us today. And the circus is not that you go to an arena and watch gladiators, but you are looking at your phone, you're looking at your social media, you're looking at television, and it's distracting you from the real things, the real stuff. And what people want to do is to become yet another influencer, yet another extreme character who does like some crazy shit.
So what I'm hearing a lot while I'm agreeing to everything you say, I love how you zoom out and in a lot and to all of the different topics, because in the end, everything is interconnected, right? The question must come up now, okay, but what can we then do better? How can we provide a more balanced approach? And I feel that is what I'm sensing from all of the ventures that you're creating, whether that is the app that you have created, the summits that are evolving, and that is the next one is coming up in June. And I'm inviting you, please share about this. Like, what is your approach in the app? How are people supported, or what is the overall intention with that? The different ways of how you then express it through the center, the summit, the app.
So I wrote the Biker's Handbook. I did run Biker Summit for 10 years plus. I've been doing a lot of different things. But with the increasing realization and understanding of like this whole theater, I understand that I need to create something new. And I do believe in movements. And to me, biohacking was a terrible term. It sounds dangerous. It sounds invasive. It's very easily misunderstood by people who don't know what it is about. Like it sounds like biological weapons, or it sounds like some kind of biotechnology. It sounds something else than optimal health and wellness. Now, there's different terms like health optimization is one popular term as well, but that's very utilitarian. There is nothing like health optimization. What are you optimizing? Biomarkers? What is a biomarker? It's a statistical average and of a population. So you want to be like the most optimal based on statistics. Yeah, that makes sense. That will make you live longer, but the human body is a compensatory system. There's different decades in your life. What is optimal is moving target. It's never ready. You can never reach it. The thing is that you can try, and that conscious pursuit and act is a great tool for self-awareness. And what I see with this, like, okay, now you are this perfect body, perfect mind. So biohacking can be very materialistic, actually, very body-centric, and very narcissistic at its worst.
Oh,
Basically, like
how
try.
can you talk about that? Because there's so much hype around that. What do you
I
mean by
mean, you look
narcissistic?
online; these people are talking about I have the best biomarkers in the world. I'm the most healthiest person ever lived. That's what does that sound to you? That sounds pretty self-centered, and like statements like that are directing people's attention to their bodies. Like if you want to have X, if you want to have like a better working brain, if you want to have a better body, if you want to have a perfect gut function, like it's all very utilitarian, and it's fine. And most likely, if you fix those things, it will fix many other issues. But I think the consciousness aspect of this is another component. So what we have done in the last few years, we have introduced consciousness, awareness, spirituality to this whole equation, because I think as a human being, if you want to be whole, you want to have a perfect body, yeah, but you also want to have social connections, because being lonely is like not nice. If you're a lonely influencer, many of them are super lonely. They get depressed because all of their time goes in front of camera. And then and by the way, when they're in front of camera, they're not themselves. They have an act on. They're acting. They're not really them. So being an actor all the time, pretending to be something you're not, and the disconnect grows all the time. Like the more extreme you become, the longer distance there is from your true self and the character you built. So there's all this psychological, psycho spiritual issues that come with this like pursuit to be a perfect version of yourself, which is often actually a imitation. You're imitating role models. You want to be someone else usually. You want to be Andrew Huberman. You want to be whoever. And in the end, it's you're emulating the very people who are fake as like you can't imagine how fake they are. But you want to be like them because you
Oh.
feel a lack, you feel less. So I've met a lot of people who are a bit unease with all of this pretentiousness. And it's the same in spiritual community. You have like people who
Mhm.
pretend to be ultra spiritual. There is nothing worse than someone who pretends to be more spiritual than other people. Also, nothing more annoying. So I think like people who have still their feet on the ground, they are interested in these things. They're doing the healthy stuff. They're exercising. They're trying to look at their sleep, but it's not extreme. So it's more about figuring out what is your bottleneck. What is the 20% that will result in 80% of improvement? That's the Pareto's law. It's not about having 100% sleep score every night. It's about being good enough. Doing something is better than doing nothing. And I think like balance comes from that. When you're a teen, you try to be like others. You try to emulate others. You want to have the same shirt. You want to go to the same school. You want to be someone else than yourself. But the healthy aging is like when you are actually discovering your identity and you dial back a little bit. So you individuate it, you separate from your caretakers, you try to be something. You got your degree, but then you like slowly find who you are. And that doesn't need to be a popular figure on social media necessarily. It can be. Um, so to me, um, I was thinking about the term sigma
Mhm.
because the world is very polarized right now. There's very alpha people, right? So very dominating energy. This whole dominator culture, like the biggest, the most famous, the most influential, and then you have like the kind of the counter culture. You have the kind of beta. You have the beta males. You have like people who are a little bit emo and like um yeah, it's they want to live with the fact that they are different, and they're signaling it everywhere. Now what I like about sigma is like in that case you are a lonely wolf. Like you don't care about other people's opinions at all.
And that's what people are afraid of, to be alone.
Yeah, they're afraid of that like separation from uh the pack, the tribe, a lonely wolf basically. And I think that's the new counterculture that will come. Is like people who are they are not alpha in the way of like, okay, look at my money, look at my car, look at my woman, you know, look at me. They are also not like beta about like making their difference their whole identity and who flock together. It's still driven by the need to rely on approval. Like both of these sides are all driven by the need of approval from someone. Now, the need for approval from others is a very narcissistic trait. It's it's what it is, and that's what our culture is like amplified with right now.
I'm making a cut in here, also being a bit mindful of time.
Sure,
um,
we still have time.
okay, that's great.
Yeah,
Tell people where to go, because everything that you're addressing, I've attended one of your summits, so it is delivering and it is providing so many different opportunities to find the individual pathway that is for each person the right way, because that is what I'm hearing what your message is. Don't go for any cookie cutter or any extreme, but you need to figure out what is the right mix of different things for yourself as an individual.
yeah.
So where can people find that in your world, all of the different ways? Where should they go?
So basically, what I'm doing, I'm gathering the craziest freaks. Like I have a freak show. If anyone wants to join,
I can
um,
recommend.
yeah, it's called Hololife Summit now. It was called Parker Summit, but basically, we do mix this higher philosophical framework and like higher purpose and meaning to all of this optimal living, productivity, health, wellness. And of course, we have the extreme examples. We have the unique characters. The speakers are extremely interesting. The whole vibe is like the people who come are like super interesting. I think you need to be also a little bit different. You need to kind of stick out of the crowd a little bit. But basically, um, the question is like, how do you, from what place does that come from in you? Like to need to be different or walk your own path. And the other thing is that to have a like a wider awareness of why do we do this. If you are now this perfectly optimized human, what are you going to do about it? You're going to live 180. What are you going to do with it? Like, are you just going to be great about your greatness, or are you actually going to be doing some impactful, useful things that build legacy? And um, so, in the end, like it's a gathering of all those extremes, but with awareness. And that's why the consciousness is needed in this whole game, that we all recognize that we live in a simulation, we live in a theater. AI is coming and it's going to take our jobs. It's going to do our social media content, whatnot. The technology
Question on that
component
one.
is
Do you
important, of
think
course.
do you think AI is tech or is consciousness, or can it be both?
To me, AI is a reflection of us because AI is trained on us. AI doesn't know anything that it cannot connect points from which are derived from human output. So collectively, we have basically produced the books, the videos, the social media, the comments, the articles that we use to train these models so that they can do our jobs. It could not be able to do our jobs unless it was actually a reflection of our needs and in turn a reflection of us. So then the question is that maybe this form of consciousness that we might call AI, maybe it always existed there. Now we just have the tools to access that collective consciousness. In a way, it's a collective. It's a reflection of our collective consciousness. Is it conscious itself? If it's able to emulate us very accurately, if it's able to evolve, if it's able to learn, if it's able to adjust its strategies depending of context, how do you define that kind of intelligence? What kind of like exerts like behaviors that look conscious? So if we are now in the point where it's passing Turing test, it's very hard to say online if an image or a video or a text is actually written by humans. It requires almost like a sixth sense sometimes to see like, okay, this seems like, oh, something is off. Like you have this weird feeling about something. But in the end, it's an extension of us. It's an amplification of us in different forms, and it's going to take its own like how would I put it? Probably like a life of its own, and it's fine. Um, it's part of our evolution as species. It's an extension of our species. It's we created it. It's not. It doesn't exist in isolation of us. Um, it's not that different from biological intelligence. It's an extension of biological intelligence, in fact. So maybe it's part of our consciousness. I don't know. But the thing is that it's fascinating times. And so I like to look at trends from a bigger perspective. And I wanna understand a lot of these things. So I've done all the biohacking, I've done all the influencer game, I've done all of this. I've lived the theater, the simulation, the characters, the caricatures. And sometimes you need to just like let others know what you have learned, and that's why we gather like one of the biggest events around these topics, because I think just like Krishnamurti said, we need a revolution of the mind. And we can't have that unless we have awareness of what's going on. And it's still okay to do your ice baths and sauna and workouts and optimal nutrition and measure your biomarkers and all of that. But I think it's way more powerful if you combine that with awareness and if you combine that with responsibility. And what is responsibility is the ability to respond. And you don't know what you're responding to unless you know what you're looking at and what you're doing.
I love that how you put this. Last question before we wrap up. I found from what you shared, but also from listening to things up front, there seems to be, to me, a pattern in everything, how you set things up, how you explain things, what you teach and share, of having a pattern of always coming from multiple perspectives to either answer a question or to pursue a set goal. Is that a concept that you would say is happening consciously anyway, and maybe an invitation to people on their own growth journeys, finding their path for the future, to learn to better integrate multiple perspectives before coming to any solution or conclusion?
The thing is that the human brain is a pattern recognition engine. It's actually a future predicting engine. This is why how our survival works. We're able to predict the movement of objects so that we don't get hit by a car. We're able to predict when the light is going to turn green from red. And that's how we run our businesses. That's how we run our lives. And technology like AI is one of the greatest pattern recognizing engines ever. It's probably going to be able to predict a lot of our future very soon because it's able to tap into much wider data sets and awareness in many cases than we are. That can be, of course, argued that technology can never replace humans. But I think if you say that, you don't know what you're talking about. You're ignorant. You're limiting your thinking because you are afraid. You're afraid of technology. The fear of technology is nothing new. This existed in the beginning of industrial revolution. There was these Luddites who burned factories and said it will take our jobs and it will make all these people jobless, and like technology is from the devil. We are saying the same thing now, but in the end, I think it's in our nature to evolve, and like like none of this fear of future has no weight because you don't see behind the corner. You don't necessarily have the awareness that in 100 200 years everyone is using this technology in some form. The capability to manufacture things, like if you look at your phone, like how much you can manufacture social media content right now and how fast, and how much the printing press actually did cost in terms of physical things to put together. Now it's so much easier. So a lot of these things is like happening, you want it or not. The question is like, are you ready to like actually with an open mind to see the other side of it? And there's always a dark side to things, but then focusing on the potential optimistic outcome, because I think we are always better off. Even if our like half of our civilization gets wiped out because of our misuse of technology, still that might be the best thing for this planet. Now that might not be the popular opinion, but the thing is that all of this serves learning on an individual and collective level so that we are more resilient, more capable. And I wrote the Resilient Being book recently, which is a sequel for Biohacker's Handbook. And we look at biological resilience. But I think these times they require resilience, they require also psychological resilience, and also awareness of how do we build systems and ecosystems that are more capable of sustaining disruptions and also in our lives. So I'm just very open thinker of many different aspects, and I think being narrow-minded is what gets you into trouble these days, and also by being absolutely extreme, although it might gain you popularity, it might cost you in one way or another. So I think what we are looking for is more human things and more human technologies and more human approach to a lot of things, because people are getting tired of extreme things in a way, because everything is possible now. Like everything is, everyone and anyone could become whatever simulation they want to become. If you think otherwise, you're limiting your thinking. Um, if it triggers you, then the question is like, what part of you is getting triggered there? So to me, it's like being fully involved, engaged, but not taking it too seriously is a healthy way to look at it in a way. So I'm fully involved in biohacking. I'm like all the way in, but also I have a healthy way of looking at that whole thing and not take myself too seriously in it.
Thank you for sharing that. So it's balance, right? The key in between all of these things is finding the balance.
Yeah. So yeah, if people want to learn more, hololifesummit.com is a great event that we put together in Estonia now, and Tokyo later this year, next year Amsterdam. And yeah, hololifecenter.com, they can check out. That's where we have some of our products, books, articles, and yeah, hopefully like if you find this resonates, you can follow us also online, because we have caricatures there. You can follow like some pretty awesome AI generated content is waiting for you.
It looks epic, by the way. And of course, we have all the links here, wherever you catch the podcast or the video on YouTube. It's just scroll down and find the links and find the connection that resonates most. I can personally absolutely recommend the summit, the event, to connect and to get the whole vibration package if that's accessible to you. Thank you, Teemu, so much. I have 3 quick questions at the end of each episode for each guest. Quick question, quick answer. That's
Mm-hmm.
all right?
Yeah.
Amazing. The name of the podcast is Trust to Disrupt. What does that term mean to you?
Well, trust yourself first. Like if you don't trust yourself, it's very hard to trust others. We are all mirroring each other. Disrupt. Well, I think there is nothing more constant than change. So you can be a change maker, or you can be like taken by the river. Up to you.
Thank you. Who comes to mind? Who else would you love to listen to on this podcast? Anyone who pops up?
Well, you can pick any of the caricatures you like, but there's always, of course, these very central figures to many things. Yeah, I don't know. Like you can talk, if you want to talk to biohackers, like pick any of the central characters that are most visible. I think the conversation will be very interesting, because in the end, if you're generating media, if you just are not able to bring into front unpopular opinions, I think no one's going to listen to you. So it's that's what made Joe Rogan so successful, is like bringing all the opinions that are not being heard by mass media in a sense, and like fighting for the right for different opinions to be heard. I think that's valuable. Like maybe someone else, yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know.
consciously, unconsciously, you caught my strategy. A part of that. Great. Last one. One advice you may have for everyone who is a bit more conscious, who would love to contribute in building for their lives and potentially for more people as well. What is one great advice for someone like that?
I think I gave a lot of philosophical framework and thought here, but I think it's important to study history, because a lot of things have been said already. Many people just focus on what they see on social media, what's the latest trend, and what is the latest meme, and like opinion leader. But it often like this, the most intelligent stuff has already been written and said, and it's all just a reflection and just a repetition of. I'm reading right now Hermetic texts and the early alchemists, because that was the early days of medical revolution. I don't think anyone in medicine is reading that stuff, but I think it's very fascinating. Many of the things that we think today, for example, that the pill or the plaster is not the actual solution, but transformation of the self is like a key component in any process of healing. And I think that's also the thing, is if you just rely on external factors, pills, plasters, doctors, I'm not saying they don't work. They do work. They have a real effect. But the thing is that if you don't change yourself, you're going to end up in the same situation again. So it's always important to look at who's looking.
Perfect closing words. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing all this wisdom. And I feel I can only encourage everyone who has listened up to now, just re-listen, because as you said, there's the frameworks, the ideas are very valuable, and you may hear different things if you listen maybe a week later again, and then the whole picture is easier for you to come together. So thank you so much, Teemu. I really appreciate your time and your wisdom.
Thank you so much. All right.
Thanks for listening. I hope you really feel inspired and you gain new perspectives for your own ventures to take action. Remember to subscribe to the podcast, download the episode, and share it with one visionary person who needs to also hear this. Also, please leave a 5-star review if that feels aligned on iTunes or on Spotify. That helps to distribute the podcast to more people and to have high caliber guests on for you to enjoy.